welcome to our second Warp VR Connect.
Hello everyone. Today we will discuss impact during 2 keynotes and 2 interactive round tables.
Hello everyone as well. So to kick off this event, I am happy to present Danique Willemsen, who is a behavioral scientist at the Dutch Fire Department.
Hi everyone, and as a behavioral scientist, I help develop multiple virtual reality scenarios. I would like to tell you something about how to apply principles from behavioral sciences to increase the impact of your VR trainings. And there's actually a lot of research showing that VR is very effective in changing the intended behaviors and improving safety skills. And there's also a lot of research showing that those skills and behaviors you've learned in a virtual environment are in most cases transferable to the real world. But why is that? Virtual reality provides a highly immersive environment that simulates real-world scenarios, and this immersion allows players to experience situations in a way that closely mirrors reality, enhancing the effectiveness of the training. Virtual reality training creates a safe and controlled space for individuals to practice and make mistakes without real-world consequences. But because of the immersive nature of VR, you can mimic the sense of urgency that would occur in the real world. And this is particularly beneficial in high-risk situations where hands-on experience is crucial for skill development. For example, learning how to safely escape a house fire. VR trainings can provide immediate and personalized feedback to users. And this rapid feedback loop is essential for behavior change, as players can adjust their actions in real time, reinforcing positive behaviors and correcting undesirable ones immediately. Because virtual reality has the capacity to evoke a strong emotional response. So newly learned behaviors can also be stored in the emotional part of your brain. And this emotional engagement is a powerful factor in behavior change, as experiences that elicit emotions are more likely to be remembered and influence future actions. And lastly, VR training can be easily customized to meet specific learning objectives and adapt to different target audiences. We need to apply several behavioral techniques to the scenario we're developing. And I will give you some tips that you can apply when you're creating your next VR training. Take some time to formulate specific behavioral goals. A rule of thumb to check whether your behavioral goal is specific enough is to imagine taking a picture of said behavior. For example, preventing wildfires is not very specific, because what would I see in that picture? A better behavioral goal is to say you want people to only park their cars in designated parking areas during hot and dry periods. And our mutual goal is now to put that same picture in the player's head after completing the VR training. It's not a bad thing to let players experience negative consequences, but always pair it with a behavior that can effectively help them prevent or take away those negative consequences. This way, you give the player the confidence to tackle these situations in real life. Step out of your organization's or business's mindset and try to adopt the player's perspective. So try to understand what motivates them to perform a specific behavior or not. So what would they feel? What would be barriers? What would drive them? And also think about what perspective would be relatable to most of the people that are going to play the VR scenario. For the online resilience scenario, for example, we deliberately didn't choose a victim or bully perspective, but we chose a bystander/classmate perspective, because that's most relatable to most of our target audience. Incorporating effective reward systems and positive reinforcement mechanisms can enhance player satisfaction, and it can encourage prolonged gameplay. People are like sheep. We're social animals, we thrive in groups, and in situations where we're not sure what the best behavior is, we tend to follow the behavior of others, even though that doesn't always mean it's the best option. Virtual reality is actually a safe way to confront players with the risks of this type of flocking behavior and encourage them to make their own decisions. I want you to remember that virtual reality can be a powerful tool for long-term change in human behavior. And I hope I have encouraged you to integrate and apply principles from behavioral sciences to increase the impact of your trainings.
I'm happy to introduce Erik Meuwsen as a learning expert from ROC Amsterdam.
Well, I'm Erik. I'm going to tell you guys something about trends in VR scenarios. My VR career in a nutshell. We met Warp VR in 2015. We started developing our own scenarios in 2017, deployed about 30 of them in 2018 in cooperation with KLM. So we didn't make them all ourselves, I have to admit that. And in 2023, it's being widely adopted in the school curriculum in different schools. We've got like 12 colleges and 6 of them are now implementing VR. So like I said, accessibility, it's becoming way more accessible for schools to afford these VR headsets and also for corporations, which helps a lot if you want to deploy new technology in an organization. Same with focus and aim. So we learned a lot about how to implement VR and how to develop them in order to learn a specific purpose. Well, like I said, personalized learning. Especially when it comes to data analytics, we can have a good insight in how our students make choices or perform, and we can use that in order to create more personalized learning for them in the future. So nowadays, we're also combining analytics with AI. I mean, myself, I'm a teacher, but I have a short-term memory. My processor is not that big, so I can't really keep a big overview on all my students. So what I do with all the data, I just gave it to an AI system, and he can give me advice on what I should focus on next according to what the students did and what they failed at, for example. The insight that we get with AI, especially the choices that a student makes, how long does it take him, who are struggling with specific skills or concepts. I think it's also really fun to implement gamification in VR, and you can do that quite easily in Warp VR. What you saw here was a scenario in Spanish where the students have to learn if they can understand the customer and what he wants. So what we did is we made like 4 difficulty levels. We made an easy scenario where the questions and answers are in Dutch. We get a medium form where the questions are in Dutch, but the answers are in Spanish. We get the hard version, which is all Spanish. And it's the idea that they can do the hard version. The goal of this scenario of the learning outcome has been achieved. However, we also added an extra hard mode. If you make one mistake, you're just out and you have to do it again. And some students really love doing that. Also, I want to share something about the practical application of VR settings. I think we all know this one. This is where everyone gets a headset. All students are in class with a headset, or all co-workers have a headset where they can practice on. The key benefits here, students are in a different setting, so they don't have any distractions from the outside world. Every student has access to the material, and it's student-paced because they have their own headset. They can now decide on how fast they would like to go through those scenarios and how often they would like to practice. The downside is that you as a teacher or as an instructor need to grasp them back to reality if you want to talk to them. There's more organizing involved, some infrastructure, because you need a lot of headsets, you need charging stations, or you need a classroom which is being shaped just for VR lessons. And students cannot really learn from each other anymore. Although if we hold a dialogue in the end when they're done, this can still be achieved. This is something that we learned from Trigion. This is a security company that we work with. They decided to start with VR very easy. They just bought a few VR headsets and they let one student go through VR, connecting it to the beamer, and the entire class can watch what the student is doing, and they can also guide the student through the progress. They can cooperate together. It's very easy to set up. You need one goggle and a beamer. However, it's less engaging because only the person in VR is really involved in the scenario. The last setting that we have is a immersive video room that we have at College Airport. Benefits of this is that the students can work together to go through the scenario, so it gives a lot of shared insights. However, it's a very expensive technology. So that's the immersive video room. I really like this setting. It's very easy to set up because the room is always ready. We can just open the application and start immediately. We have like government organizations doesn't always allow us to deviate from certain exam criteria. So for example, they have to check in a customer in a hotel for their exam. We can do that via VR too. However, it's not being done so much in the world yet. So there's a lot of companies that are being skeptical about it. They think that a student can perform way better in a hotel, for example, doing it at a desk, than they can do it in VR. And we're now trying to prove them otherwise, so we can also use the VR scenarios for assessing and certifying students for certain skills that they have. For the maintenance department, we're now working with KLM and the IATA, which is a global institute for flight safety, to see if we can actually do it. They're open for it, so we're now exploring our possibility. Make sure you have an infrastructure for your VR equipment. It's just going to save you a lot of hassle. Make also sure that you have some training and support for your VR teachers. And I know that Warp VR can help you with that too. And you need some guidance for VR students. So those three aspects are quite important if you want to deploy VR in your company successfully.
Thank you, Erik, for sharing your experience and knowledge as well. I think we shared some great thoughts on how to keep trainees engaged and include different behaviors and elements in storytelling when it comes to the creation of a scenario. We had also some thoughts about older generations possibly being more closed to the idea of using advanced technology, as well as how to approach security scenarios that are more tech-based and turn them more into story-based scenarios that would include much more engagement, emotions, and different outcomes. I believe some people are already planning on connecting even in person.
Yeah, in my session, we had a very great question on how to engage the trainees emotionally in your VR training. So we talked a little bit about different storytelling techniques that we use, the difference between an obstacle and a dilemma. An obstacle is you have a door, so you need a key to go through the door, and a dilemma is if you should open the door even with the key in hand, and how you could incorporate this in your VR training.
We obviously discussed the implementation part of the VR training. Implementation might even be more difficult than creation. So I'm not sure the other breakout room agrees, but you can create something, but then how do you go into employees and also students playing the VR training? So we actually discussed on selling and let's say internal marketing within the company. And something else that has been discussed is as well to make it mandatory, to kind of wrap it into a certification. Time was way too short. There were many experiences that were shared. That's really what this is all about, to share those experiences and to learn from each other. This was Warp VR Connect November 2023, the Impact Edition. Of course, we will be back just before summer next year with a brand new edition. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.